Good morning, everybody. My name is Austin Nelson. It is a not so beautiful day here in the city of Lynchburg, Virginia, but good thing I'm inside so I can do my discussion board regardless of whether or not it's raining. So today, for our first video discussion board for Counseling 501, we're going to be talking about informed consent, ethics, and state regulations for whatever state you're in. Mine would be Virginia. I think it's really important. What I want to do first is I want to cite my source because I think it does a good job kind of setting the foundation for the conversation. Dr. Tanya Murtha, in a research study she did called Is Informed Consent Truly Informed, talks about how informed consent lets the client, research participant, whatever they are, know the purpose of the time they are spending together, the risks and the benefits, and the voluntary nature of participation. The point of this study was to show, after a consultation meeting for research, healthcare, counseling, whatever it is, how much of the content in the informed consent was actually remembered. And for a lot of them, for example, when it comes to what percentage of the people in the study understand confidentiality, and 70% of the people who had a consultation after an informed consent form, after they signed it, still did not fully understand the confidentiality of the practice. Or 80% of the people, after they signed the informed consent, were not fully aware of the risks or benefits to the study. So clearly it's important that counselors especially have a very clear and concise definition and application of informed consent. So whether or not the person remembers what was told to them, it's clear in writing and people will understand and leave the initial consultation informed. And the counselor will have a legal cover if for whatever reason the person's upset. I think it's important to remember that counselors are working with people who aren't always rational and making emotional choices, so you need to have some legal coverage and informed consent coverage. So if for whatever reason things get thrown back on you, you can say, well, actually, you were made aware of the risks and benefits of counseling. So I just want to get that out of the way. It's actually kind of funny when you look at the ACA Code of Ethics website, the second thing that the Code of Ethics talks about is conformed consent in the counseling relationship. It says, counselors have an obligation to review in writing and verbally with clients the rights and responsibility of both the counselors and the clients. So clearly, this is pretty important. If there's lots of scholarly research on it, and it's the second point in the ACA Code of Ethics, they must be onto something. And I think it's kind of funny applying this to another world that I spent some time in. My dad owns a building company, and although it's not informed consent, whenever he signs a contract with a client, he has a very detailed document that he goes through with them about the scope of the job, the price of the job, hazards of the job, expectations, and that kind of stuff. So, essentially, in counseling, which can be very volatile, it's really, really important that the counselor and the client both know what they're getting into, so nobody gets in trouble. Now, a part of the prompt was to find an online version of this and apply it to the research. So I found a company called Olive Branch Counseling out of Austin, Texas, and they have an online version of their informed consent form. And I honestly expected a little bit more. It's only like 3.5 pages, and half of it is just talking about their pricing. So initial intake, $120. Follow-up visits, $90. And it talks about the timing of their meetings and the cost, which it's important to have that covered, but I kind of thought it would go into a little bit more of that. And then it talks about confidentiality and working with minors and the risks and benefits. It just seems kind of brief. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but for whatever reason, I find this one to be not super in-depth. I'm trying to think of me in the future as a counselor. I'm going to try to do I want to have all my bases covered because I don't want to get sued or lose my license. I'm going to spend more time talking about confidentiality, risks and benefits and that kind of stuff, and like my theoretical framework and my practice, not as much about the costs of things. So for example, extensive email responses, $10 an email, but there's no definition of what an extensive response is. Even their definition is, this rate applies to lengthy emails sent in response to yours or sent on your behalf. It's still kind of vague on what an extensive email is, so that kind of leaves some wiggle room if somebody gets upset. Anyways, I'm a little bit over time, so I gotta hurry up. And then lastly, I was supposed to look at the regulatory rules for the state of Virginia. I'm on their website now, and they do talk a little bit about the importance of informed consent, but they don't have, at least I can't find, an as extensive list that goes as in depth as the textbook. But it is mentioned, and it is clearly very important. And they mention it for a variety of different professions. They have counseling, rehab providers, substance abuse, marriage and family. So they have a version of informed consent, or they mention informed consent under all of those regulatory boards. So clearly, it's important. Thank you.